welcome to or back to my channel. My name is Shea and I currently live in Bologna, Italy, where I study Italian. If you're new here, I make videos about language learning and vlogs about my life here in Italy. So even though I currently attend a language school, in today's video I wanted to talk about some ways that I study and learn Italian on my own outside of school, and ways that you also can study a language on your own at home. So I'm going to go over the methods that I have been using to study, and I just want to say that these methods can be used for studying any language in general, but a lot of the recommendations that I provide, for example, if there's a series on Netflix that I watch, it will be for Italian because that's the language that I'm studying. But these tips in general can be used for any language learner. Okay, so method number one is watching TV series and movies in your target language. And I made videos on this topic. A while ago I made a video of the series that I was watching on Netflix, but now obviously new series have come out. I've watched different things. I'm able to watch series that maybe are a little more complex. But I will go ahead and put a list in the description of some of the series that I've seen since then, or some of the series that I still really like, so that way you can see a whole list. For example, right now I am so obsessed with the show Mare Fuori. It's like such a big thing here in Italy. I watched the first episode and I was like, I don't know. And now here I am on season 3, completely obsessed. The only thing is that it is in the Napolitano dialect. 90% of it is in Napolitano, which is the dialect of Naples, so obviously you need to have subtitles. I don't know if it's available on Netflix in the US. I don't know. At least here in Italy, like, they don't have an option to watch it in English, so that's fine. I just use Italian subtitles so that way I can understand the dialect. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to understand the show. But yeah, you can just choose Italian subtitles. This would be for people who are more advanced because it's a little bit hard to hear the dialect and then also be reading Italian if you're not fully comfortable with Italian yet. So I would say this recommendation is probably for learners who are a little bit more advanced. Another thing you can also do is watch shows that are just dubbed in Italian. So sometimes if I'm watching, I don't know, any show like Stranger Things, a show that you already like, and if there's an option to watch it dubbed in the language that you're learning, you could try that as well. Obviously sometimes it's a bit distracting when like the characters' mouths are moving but the words don't line up, or sometimes dubbing, at least English dubbing, I feel like is a little bit exaggerated, like over dramatic. The voices sometimes are a little too much and I honestly don't like it. Italian isn't too bad though, so sometimes I'll watch shows that are originally in English but dubbed in Italian. Reality TV shows in Italian. So for example, I found that Discovery Plus, at least here in Italy, has reality TV shows basically the equivalent of Married at First Sight, but in Italian. I really love reality TV because you can hear like the way people normally speak, normal interactions. You can hear more like informal or colloquial ways of saying things. Also, if you enjoy reality TV, it's really addicting, so like you'll want to watch more and more. Also, I know there are some MTV shows that are in Italian that you can find like full episodes on YouTube, for example. Definitely try to see if there's some variations of reality TV shows in the language that you're learning, because a lot of times different countries will have a similar program in their own language if it's a popular reality show. So try experimenting with that as well, because I was very happy when I found things like Married at First Sight and different like dating shows in Italian. There was also like Drag Race in Italian, so there's so many things that I had no idea existed, but now it's fun because I love reality TV and it's a good way to learn. Watching series is a really great way to learn because you learn new words, you're hearing the language, so it can help with pronunciation, especially if you hear something and then you say it back to try to match the pronunciation. But also it's really helpful because you're hearing something that maybe you don't understand everything, but you can guess the context based on the visual aid of the show itself. So for example, when I'm watching a series and maybe someone says something that I don't really know the word, I can kind of guess on like what the character is doing, what the character's saying, if it kind of has like negative connotation. If I really can't figure out what something is, then I'll look it up. But I don't want to be pausing the show every few minutes to look up a word that I don't know. Having the visual as well as the words on screen in the subtitles is really helpful to be able to figure out what things mean. Another thing I do is I watch YouTubers as well. So for example, in the morning when I'm getting ready for school and I'm putting on my makeup, I'll just watch some of the YouTubers that I like as well. I want to do a video soon that goes more into detail about what I do when I'm watching series, like how I did it in the very beginning when I was still learning versus now. I know some people have questions about exactly how you're supposed to be learning, if you're supposed to be looking up words along the way, like should I use English subtitles, Italian subtitles? So I want to do a video kind of going more on depth on what exactly I do and how it's beneficial to me, and how you can be like more of an active watcher instead of just passively listening. So I will be making a video that goes more into depth on this soon. So stay tuned. Another thing that I do a lot is I find free PDFs of workbooks and exercises all online. I recently made an Instagram post about this, but basically all you have to do is just search whatever grammar topic you're looking for, or just like overall grammar in general, and you could do textbook, whatever kind of keywords you need of what you're looking for, plus PDF, free PDF, download, things like that. And a lot of times you can just find PDFs of full workbooks for free that you can just download. I will put some in the description down below, the ones that I really like. There's a basic grammar book for Italian that I'm like shocked that you can just download it. It's a great book, and it goes over the really basic grammar foundation that you should have in Italian, and it has exercises with an answer key. I mean, it's 200 pages and you can just download it for free. And then what I do is I download it onto my iPad because I have like the Apple Pencil, and then I can just write, or I can highlight things, I can take notes if I need to, and then for the exercises I can actually write on there because I don't have a printer, but I also don't want to print out 200 pages worth of something. So, it can be great to download if you do have a tablet or an iPad. Otherwise, I also have done things where I just write in my notebook, take notes, or write the answers for the exercises on like a physical notepad. The only thing I will say though is if it's exercises, just kind of scroll through to make sure that you actually do have an answer key, because I found this really great exercise for the prepositions, and then I was filling out a bunch of them and I scrolled to the end to look for the answers and there weren't any answers. Luckily, I have this one friend who I send her stuff all the time because she's studying English right now, so we go back and forth. But I just sent it to her. I was like, hey, can you correct this for me? Because there isn't an answer key. Just be sure to check, because obviously you want to make sure that what you're doing is actually correct. I used to use Z Library, but I think it was shut down. But I also heard it was like started back up again. But I don't know, because I tried to look at it and it's a little iffy. I don't know. So I don't know if I can fully recommend Z Library anymore. But like I said, for the most part, you can find a bunch of free resources on Google. And then of course, something I've been doing for a long time is reading books. I wanted to talk about where I actually get these books. I have made videos about reading in Italian or just reading in another language, how you can do it so that way it's actually effective. Because, when you first start, you can't all of a sudden just jump into reading a novel if you're like a beginner, A1, A2. It's going to be way too hard. So first off, you have to find reading material that's at your level. For beginners, it's probably like short stories, children's stories, very basic. Later on, I have read probably like 7 or 8 books in Italian now. It's been a mix of books that are originally in English but translated into Italian, and then a few actually Italian books. Because for me, I find that it's usually easier if a book is from English and it's translated. Usually I feel like based on my experiences, the books that I read like that have just been a little bit easier to understand and to read. I don't know if it's because they're kind of in like an English construction, or maybe the words, maybe I'm just choosing books that aren't very complicated. For example, I read a bunch of those like Colleen Hoover books but translated into Italian, and I know those aren't very complex, but it definitely also depends on the way the book is written. Sometimes the books originally in Italian are a little bit more difficult because like the construction of the sentences, but also because a lot of books in Italian will use the passato remoto tense, which is not a tense that a lot of us learn if we're like students of Italian, because it's mainly only used in writing. Also, like certain regions, like people in the South use it more. Not really used when you speak. But sometimes if you open a book and you're like, what is this verb? Or like, what is this word? I've never seen it before, because that happened to me. It's probably in this tense. Basically functions like passato prossimo, but a lot of Italian books will use it, so just so you know. And then as far as where I find my books, so I've done a mix of some things. Now that I'm here in Italy, I can go into bookstores and find books that are in Italian very easily, thank God, because it was very hard in the US to actually be able to like order books in Italian. If you are in the US, I did use a website called Book Depository. I can link that down below as well. That's how I ordered some Italian books. But again, there wasn't like a huge selection, and it took a lot of time for shipping, and it's, I think, a little bit more expensive. But that is a site that you can use that I know ships to the US. I think they also ship different places in Europe as well. And they should have other languages. It's not like it's just Italian. Like, they should also have other foreign language books. Another thing I did was I used Kindle Unlimited for a while because that was very easy to just download books as well. But I mainly used that for downloading like workbooks. They had a 30-day free trial. Sometimes they have promotions like where it's a couple months free trial, whatever. I mean, I love free trials of anything, so of course I'll just download a bunch of books during the free trial. Another thing that I used here in Italy is Kobo by Rakuten? I don't know. Rakuten? I have no idea how to say that brand. But I just discovered, I didn't know this was a thing. I discovered this when I was trying to see if Z Library was still alive and well, and we are unsure about that. So I found that Rakuten Kobo is like basically kind of like Kindle. You can download books. The selection, there isn't a ton. So I would say like you don't have a huge selection of books to choose from. But from what I did find, I like the books that I've read on there so far. They also had a 30-day free trial, so it's like, sign me up. I think it's, for the most basic plan, like 10 euros per month. But I think you can just download as many books as you want. They also have audiobooks as well. I don't know in other regions, like sometimes I think the free trial periods aren't the same. So this was at least for Italy. And then I don't know if you can access books from other languages. Like, you're just gonna have to check in your country what it's like. There are definitely so many different ways you can download books to Kindles, and I like that because then it's like, you know, if you start reading a book, for example, on this Kobo thing, like sometimes I'll start reading a book and I don't really like it, let me try the other one that I downloaded. Like, now you don't have a bunch of physical copies of books just sitting around, maybe if you didn't like them or something. So I think it's really good, especially if you get a free trial. Like, you could read a lot of books in a month. If you want to check out my other videos about reading in Italian or reading in another language, basically I just say how I don't spend so much time looking up words that I don't know, or, you know, I'm not stopping every second. Sometimes I guess using the context of what I'm reading, just making sure that I have an overall understanding of what's happening, but I don't stop every single time I don't know a word. Unless, you know, a word is popping up a lot and I still am like, what does this word mean? Finally, I will look it up. But for the most part, if you stop after every word, it's just not going to be enjoyable, but also it won't be beneficial. And then another tip is incorporating language learning into your hobbies. I made a video about this as well. It was called Ways to Make Language Learning Fun, I think. And I talked about how you can incorporate your hobbies and language learning together. So for example, one thing that I do is I really like cooking and I like trying new recipes. So one thing I will do is look up these recipes in Italian. For example, I made banana bread the other day, which is very much like an American thing, but I wanted to find a recipe in Italian to kind of see like maybe how they would do it differently, and also because just like measurements here are different, certain ingredients are different as well. It was beneficial in that sense because I was able to find everything and have like correct measurements. It's good to like do something that I enjoy doing, but do it in Italian. So it's a good way to learn. Obviously, since I like cooking, it's beneficial for me to learn these vocabulary words. Another thing that I do is when I travel and I need recommendations or something, I will look for blogs or websites in Italian, usually because I'm just traveling within Italy. So if I'm going to a place, another region in Italy, I like to, one, get the perspective of a local or an Italian that actually knows this place. So it's nice to be able to get the local view or like an Italian's view, but also just to read, to get experience reading about the city in Italian and learning about it in Italian, I think is very helpful. So if you do like reading blogs, or maybe you enjoy seeing other people's content, maybe start looking for content creators that speak your target language. Finally, of course, speaking practice, dreaded speaking practice. It's always the hardest part. One, because most people are super shy to speak the language. Obviously, it's really scary to put yourself out there and be vulnerable and be afraid of making mistakes. I get it, trust me, I hate it. I hate making mistakes. Luckily for me, obviously, I live here in Italy, so I get speaking practice when I go out and do errands. I have friends here who, most all of my friends, if they are Italian, they also speak English. So in the beginning, we spoke English a lot, but then I would have to be like, no, this time that we're seeing each other, we have to speak Italian because I need to practice. Obviously, if you have a language buddy, that's perfect. If you don't live in the country of the language that you're learning, which obviously most people don't, there are apps that I've talked about like HelloTalk and Tandem. Of course, there's going to be some unfortunately weird people on there. Hopefully you can find a language buddy I think I prefer more tandem. Also, if you want like a tutor, I love Italki. I used to use Italki all the time. Sometimes I'll still use it because I have like a credit on there, so might as well. I love my tutor that I used to talk with in the past, so sometimes I'll catch up with her. But it's super affordable. You can find a lot of Italki tutors who are under $10 an hour, and it's a good way to get speaking practice, especially once you become comfortable with your teacher. You can have little catch-ups every week or something. It really, really is helpful, especially if you don't have anyone to practice with. Also though, just like talking to yourself. I mean, obviously it's a little weird if you don't live alone and your roommates or your family's probably like, what? For me, for example, when I'm taking a shower, I like talk about my day. I pretend that I am telling someone a story about a trip that I did or something. Choose a topic while you're cleaning your house, while you're vacuuming, whatever. Just pretend like you're talking to a friend, you're telling a story, because maybe you might make mistakes, but you're just getting practice telling these stories, choosing the right verb tenses. Sometimes when I'm talking about a story, I realize like, oh wait, I actually don't know how to say this word, and then I'll look it up. It just helps to keep speaking, even if you aren't actually speaking to someone. Just getting that practice of forming the sentences on your own is really beneficial. So talk to yourself. Just talk to yourself, it's fine. And I mean, language learning is always gonna have ups and downs. Sometimes it can be so frustrating when you see how far you have left to go. I feel like I've made a lot of progress, but there's sometimes certain topics I still am not able to figure out the vocabulary, or there's certain verb tenses that still take me a long time to find. So really don't worry, and remember to never compare yourself to other people. Some people learn faster, some people, like me, I've learned a lot faster now that I'm actually in Italy. Some people don't have the opportunity to go live in the country of the language that they're learning. You know, sometimes it feels like the progress is a little bit slower if you're not immersed in the language every day. So again, don't compare yourself. Find ways that work for you, because maybe your friend is telling you, oh, this worked really well for me, but you just don't like that method. That's fine. Everyone's unique. Everyone should find ways that work best for them. But if you are learning a language, I know how hard it is, and I am proud of you, and keep it up, keep going. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I will be continuing to make videos on language learning, and specifically Italian, as well as sharing my journey here in Italy and my life here in Bologna. Follow me on Instagram because I post all the time about little daily updates about my life here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye.